It's funny now, I'll be 35 next month, and I spent exactly half of my life in poverty in Houston. Mm-hmm. And now I've spent this exact 17 years, second half of my life, not in poverty. So it's like, those first 17 were tough. I got 3 older brothers. I grew up in government assistant living in the south side of Houston in a 2-bedroom. Unit 202 was my unit, right? And the youngest with 3 older brothers, my mom has one room, the 4 of us have the other. You're the youngest, you're sleeping on the floor, kid. You get a pallet. Like, kids don't even know what a pallet is. A pallet is a pillow and multiple blankets that now make the ground a little bit softer. Like that was my bed for the longest, right? Yeah. For me at that time, there were tough decisions being made. Do I buy groceries or do I put gas in my car? Because we can't do both. Get into this dilemma of I don't have funds, gas, or food. Found the loophole. It's called overdraft. And I would just overdraft the account. Go get the food first. Leave enough to get the tank started. When the tank starts, it won't cut off. You'll just overdraft. Here we go. Not the best. You get a $35 charge for overdrafting, but you got a full fridge and you got a full tank. I can get back to work. But you gotta have this level of belief in yourself. Yeah. I'm gonna keep doing this until this pops. Not if this doesn't work in the next 60 days, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Who are you to say it's only good taking 60 days?
Right.
This doesn't work in the next year. Who are you to say it only takes a year? Are you dedicated or not? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? I think this is 2021. I've been at this since 2012, 13.
Right.
You just never know when the thing happens. Don't stop searching until you figure out what you want your contribution to this world to be. And when you figure it out, never stop working on it, ever. Don't look to retire. Contribute to this world until you're no longer here. It'll be the most fulfilling thing you can do.
Welcome back to the Get Back Podcast. I'm Zeke Pike here with my co-host Greg Kelly.
Today we have a special guest, as always. All our guests are special, but this guy is also very close to me. I got to meet him in the most unexpected ways. It has to do with kind of my story. It's recently a lot of, it's been a small world between us two. So I thought it would be fitting. I was like, you know what? I gotta get Jeremy back in the fold here. And so wanted to get him on here, put him in the chair, want to hear his story, want to hear how he's become, where he's at, all this knowledge this man has. Before I introduce him, I want to talk about how I met him. And again, small world. I think our common denominator is our dentist.
Yeah.
And so, I
was gonna say, are those real?
Yeah, best compliment I can have. Yes,
your smile is what you got the best going for you there. So, but no, man, it was our dentist. My dentist Eric. He was my brother's college roommate, best friend at UT back in the '90s, and now he's very well connected with the UT guys, and I'd like to say he's probably a lot by Jeremy Hills. But man, I think it was like a Memorial Day party at Eric's house. And I had just got out of prison and my story was just back up on the news. I got released, waiting to be exonerated, but I was trying to get football back. But then I was like trying to do MMA too. And Jeremy's like, dude, forget about the MMA. You got to get back into football, do that full circle. Yeah. And he threw me into the fold with his guys. And I always thought that was nuts because I thought I was showing up to a gym just to do a one-on-one with you. And next thing you know, there's like Kenny Vaccaro, there's Earl Thomas, there's Landon Collins. And when I was walking in, I was like, man, these are guys I hold up to esteem. And I was like, I remember like, I almost want to go up to you like, man, you see those guys right there? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, go warm up with them.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing here, man? And I got ran into the ground and I threw up a lot. And
then you came back.
And I came back. And it's because you didn't look at me with like, hey, it's not like you don't belong here. It's just, you got to stay consistent. You got to show up every day, and eventually you'll stop getting run into the ground and you'll be able to stand again. And so that's what I got from it. And so I did. I came back. And I mean, your heart, man, for seeing people, that just want to get it back is what I love about you. And so we got Jeremy Hills here on the Get Back podcast. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, thank you. How much I owe you?
Not a cent. I think I still owe you. I think there's some bills I still owe you for the training.
No, you're good. What I'll tell you is you invest in people that invest in themselves. And you know my story with my brother, one of my older brothers.
Yeah.
And I know like he was a hell of a ball player before he had his whole situation. And seeing you come back from that and just seeing the fire in you, I'm like, well, let's see what he has. There's a big difference between people that think they're capable and people that know they're capable. And where you wanted to go, where you wanted to play college football. You want to play with the big boys. I was like, well, then we got to separate the think from the know. And the only way we do that is baptism by fire. So day one was intentional. Day one was a chin check, which you've been in those positions before. So I think you responded exactly how I would imagine you would. But the difference between like production and potential is like doing it. You got to actually do it. So it was cool for me to challenge you, see you, get chin checked and then come back the next day and then come back the next day. And then I don't even think it was a couple of weeks later, you started coming out a little bit earlier. He would show up early before the sessions. I would see him foam rolling before it was even, he'd be the first.
The boy was sore.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be what it was.
That boy's like, I got to get there early and get stressed out.
Just the dedication. And I kid you not, by the second off season, if that long, he was the leader in some groups. He would be challenging other guys. I started to see this confidence grow, and it was almost like this fire that you keep feeding, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where I remember when you went from looking at these guys on this pedestal to started realizing that if I get the opportunity, I'm gonna take your job, and that's when he began to challenge people, and he would, openly tell them like, listen, some things happened to me that was unfair and it took the opportunity that I could have and I'm trying to get it back. And you got that opportunity and look what you're doing with it. I remember when you started challenging people and I'm like, oh yeah, he's ready. So to go through that and then eventually see you get your shot at it was, in my time as a performance coach, a performance trainer, I say that's definitely top 3 moments that I've been.
Really?
Absolutely.
That means a lot coming from you, man, because
absolutely.
you get to train some of the elite of the elite. And I'd probably say that's because of your love for people. Yeah. And, you have this, and I use it, and I actually tell myself this every day when I don't want to give everything I have in the day. You say win the day, right? You say almost every dang day in your story, right? And I go on Instagram, I see your story, I'm just like, win the day, win the day. And that's like your catchphrase. That's like your thing, and that's so important because that little sentence rings the truest when you don't want to stay consistent.
Right.
It's and you say something else, it's like, success is reserved for
those willing to pay his price.
Yeah.
Sun Tzu.
Yeah. Sun Tzu. Yeah. And it's things like that, man. It's like whenever I was down the most and I didn't know necessarily my place, I walked into a gym and a guy was willing to give me a shot. And I saw these guys that I hold to high esteem. And then when I knew for a fact that I wasn't going to be more talented than them, right? They got to have the opportunity to go straight from their high school days and go experience their dorm mate in college. Well, I went from going from high school to my first dorm mate was a cellmate with 3 life sentences.
Wow.
And so it's like when you think of the dynamic shift and the 2 lives there, I was walking into like that training group more like if I see you squandering this opportunity, then let me just be the example of what it could look like for you. That you never know when your last play is going to happen. And let me, if I can't tell you it, let me show you what it feels like to cry every night, knowing that you should be on a college football field.
Right.
You know? And that's what I did essentially for a long, long time in prison. And so getting back into the pros, I eventually start seeing these guys as just like, oh, they're just people.
They're just guys.
They're just guys.
They're just guys.
And
they got opportunity. They got the talent, and they're running with it.
They want to get better as much as I do.
Yep.
And they're willing to pay a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
And they're willing to sacrifice a lot. And so,
and you would, I think, just always say that like divine timing is a thing. And I believe that you cross paths with one of, if not the hardest worker I've ever been privileged to work with, which was Earl Thomas.
Yeah.
And
he's a machine. He was a machine. Like he was an emotionless machine when he trained.
An emotionless machine.
Yeah.
People would ask me all the time, like, this is back when he's literally on top of the NFL as one of the most talented players, hardest working, consistent players in the league. What's it like to train Earl Thomas? And my answer was one nobody would ever expect. I was, it's quiet. Yeah. Really quiet. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, he asked, what do we got today? How do I do it? How many? And then we talking about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like it's very quiet. Every now and again, he looks back for some type of confirmation to make sure what he's doing is the right thing. But he was the definition for me, an example for me of what it looks like when you like truly attached and driven to being the best.
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like? You know what I mean? Like, you remember he would show up, not even talking.
No.
He would go in his backpack, pull out an iPad, and be watching film until it was time to start training.
Yeah.
This is in March. The season just ended in February with the Super Bowl. They won't play again until September. And I think that watching him respect you and watching you not just gain his respect, but like you had the respect, you respected him as well. I think he would even say that like you pushed him. Remember those hill sprints days?
Yeah. I think I was ahead of him just a little
bit. Yeah, that's what I like. You pushed him. You pushed him. And he hates to lose. So it's like it was cool to be a part of that period of your life. Yeah. And then, from afar to see you go on.
Yeah.
Husband, father, congratulations.
Yeah, man.
I'm
loving every bit of it. It's a labor of love and it's definitely life-changing. But you got two.
Oh yeah. No, listen, I've just gotten used to getting no sleep.
Yeah. Well, actually, for however long I've known you, I don't think I've ever seen you probably get a good night's sleep because you're working out, like you're clocking in and you're putting on your story, like working out like midnight or like 2 a.m.
Those are some of my best sessions. Those are therapy sessions.
Yeah.
A lot on your mind. I think like healthy outlets are necessary.
Yeah.
And for me, some people go running. Some people go, they go to the movies. Others, some people go for a drive. For me, it's training. Like it's training. It's going to that place. Kind of what we were talking about off camera of like getting back into the hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Like taking myself to that space, taking myself to that place, and like in those sessions that's where that like creative juice and those flows start coming from. And then next thing you know, I'm in my notes section on my phone, just like a madman, like typing away. Yeah, even when I go after the session, I'm taking a shower. I got my phone outside the shower. I'm like, you don't know how many times I've stopped the shower to like grab it and I'm typing because these ideas it's flowing. And then when it is time to like lay it down, I feel like I've won that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take us because we're giving people a lot of context here, but like take us through your story and like because I think where you're at and how you got to where you're at today, people would love to be in that position and train athletes and be a successful business owner, but we know very well like that's not easy. That doesn't come easy. There's a lot of adversity, a lot of overcoming. I know you played, and so take us through your story and give our audience like a better context of who you are and then how you even got to be doing what you're doing today, right?
Oh God, it was 1989. No. I mean, I grew up. I lived my entire. It's funny now. I'll be 35 next month, and I spent exactly half of my life in poverty in Houston, and now I've spent this exact 17 years, second half of my life, not in poverty. So it's like those first 17 were tough. I got 3 older brothers. I grew up in government assistant living in the south side of Houston in a 2-bedroom. Unit 202 was my unit, right? And the youngest with 3 older brothers, my mom has one room. The 4 of us have the other. You're the youngest. You're sleeping on the floor, kid. You get a pallet. Like, kids don't even know what a pallet is. A pallet is a pillow and multiple blankets that now make the ground a little bit softer. Like that was my bed for the longest, right?
Yeah.
But I come from a football family. My uncle Santana Dotson, my father played for Santana Dotson played for the Packers. My father played for the Oilers, which is originally, my family migrated to Houston. They were originally from Dallas. My older brothers remember living in Dallas, but I wasn't born. Parents split, and all I remember was never having enough. Whatever it is, we don't have enough. Lunch money, I'm on reduced lunch. Lunch costs $1.50. Lunch costs 45 cents for me, right? So like, school clothes, mine came on layaway. I mean, you put a deposit down and then you take the next 3 months and you pay on the bill at interest free, and then they'll give you the school clothes before the school year starts. If you miss a payment, you don't get that money back, and they keep the clothes, right? So like, this was life. But the thing is, and I tell people this all the time, the reason exposure is so powerful is because it opens your mind up to more. But when they say ignorance is bliss, is in this environment, this was the norm. So I didn't think that my life was any different than anybody else's, because all of us have our clothes on layaway. Majority of us are on reduced lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this was the regular for everybody here. But for us, like, sports was our outlet. Sports was our outlet. All like talented. My mother ran track and played basketball. My oldest brother played football. The brother after him played football. The brother after him was the number 1 tight end in America and the number 3 small forward in America at the same time. This kid was just a different kind of athlete. He was 17 years old, 6'5", 265, and literally was hooping with the Houston Hoops, and they won a junior Olympic medal overseas in Spain, and he was next to him, and Kendrick Perkins won the same team. But you know what I mean? So exceptionally talented, and that was what was expected from our family, and we looked at it as almost life or death, in a sense of like, if you had this skill, which you do, and you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you're looking at what life has to offer you. Like that, unfortunately, that was the mindset, which I completely disagree with now that I've gotten a little bit older. But in that moment, that's all we think. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a difference. I'll tell people all the time, it's a difference between wanted and gotta have it. And we operated in a gotta have it mentality. And that definitely served me well growing up in Houston, A-Leaf, to be exact. That's my area. And I was 14, 15 when I got my first full scholarship. Texas A&M was my first full ride. And then they kind of came rolling in after that. 16 to 17, they came rolling in after that. Miami, SC, Notre Dame, Texas, LSU.
How'd that feel, knowing your upbringing, knowing that this was going to be your way out?
It felt, to be real with you, you got this fire that's burning from an unhealthy place. So you don't really feel the feels of the moment. Yeah. You feel like a box is checked. Like, that's the genuine feel. It's that, like, bet I get a chance to get up out of here, and now I can finally get to my next step, because I got stuff to do.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the mentality. It's that, like, okay, bet I'm actually getting up out of here. Cool. You don't really.
That wasn't your Super Bowl. Like,
exactly.
Your Super Bowl's way down the
exactly.
road.
It's like it's almost an arrogance that you have to put on and wear throughout your life, because in this environment, there's no such thing as being empathetic. There's no such thing as having like these emotional highs when you should have them. You know, there's actually a J. Cole. J. Cole has I forget what song it is, but he talks about is like is in the hood is the worst actors. We the ones that gotta wear our face backwards. And he means like you're taught to not smile.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so you were like lacking some emotional intelligence.
Yeah, emotional intelligence, like the whole thing, empathy, like being vulnerable is considered being weak. You know what I mean? Being weak is you all of a sudden you don't have the same value.
You see a lot of that in prison. That's like the prison mentality.
So okay.
Essentially, it is a prison mentality.
So then like apply that to just a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what that was. But the best, like I said, exposure was the best thing. Eventually, I signed with the University of Texas, and my mother, bless her heart, she was ready for me to go. Go. Like she forced me to graduate early. And so I graduated in December of 2007, and I started college January of 2008. And I got to Austin on a Greyhound bus. She gave me what she had. She had like $200 and a Greyhound ticket, because she couldn't miss work to take me to college. That don't exist. So at 17, going on 18, I literally like got to college. I got to Austin on a Greyhound bus. And craziest thing, the first human that I met when I got to Austin, the first human was David Mulugeta.
Oh, really?
Craziest thing, right?
That's crazy.
It's wild how that worked.
How?
My brother and him were in school at the same time. When I got to Austin,
that's the connection you have.
Yeah. Okay. My brother was getting ready to leave. It's January 2008. He's getting ready to leave to go to do NFL draft prep.
Yeah.
He was having lunch with David, and this is before Uber. So he was he's supposed to pick me up from the Greyhound. There's no car out here. So I get on a payphone, and I'll ring him, and I'm like, yo, what's up? And he's like, my bad. Tell the taxi to take you to da-da-da, and I'll pay him when he get here. Yeah. And I pulled up my whole life in a suitcase. I pulled up to Texas Roadhouse on 35 South and Stastny Lane, and I get out pissed off because what am I doing? Like, bro, like you could have been here to pick me up. But
you knew David Mulugeta is?
Yeah. So I walk into the Texas Roadhouse, and I'm pissed. I get his keys, throw my suitcase in the car, pay the taxi driver, walk back in. I sit down. He like, relax. Like, sit down. He's like, Jay, this is David. David, this is my little brother. And he was the first actual human that I met in the city in 2008.
What was he doing at the time?
He was a party promoter.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say he wasn't an agent. He wasn't. None of that.
He was a party promoter. Was studying to go to law school. Just graduated from UT, and he ended up going to Nebraska Law.
The dude's so smart.
Yeah, but when I just think about, I believe that steps are ordered, and then I believe that decisions put you on the paths that are available for you. You know what I mean? Like ultimately, what you were supposed to do, you're gonna do. But I believe that your decision making has like these different options available for you. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And meeting him and us helping each other out and becoming close and friend. He looked out for me from the very beginning, just off of the strength of his relationship with my brother. But it played out. It played out well for both of us, kind of thing. But I got to Austin. It was just a culture shock. 3 weeks in, I didn't want to be here no more. It was a culture shock.
What was different between
the biggest difference was I was uncomfortable around people that didn't look like me. I didn't realize how uncomfortable I was.
Yeah.
Like I made straight A's my whole life, but I'll tell you, not all public schools are created equal. And when I got to UT, and first class I ever took was cultural anthropology. I will never forget that. And this professor is asking questions where I damn sure know I don't know the answer, because I don't understand the question, right? And it's like, this is a freshman introduction class. So everybody here is my age and they're raising their hands. I'm like, oh, what did they teach you in school that they didn't teach me? And I'm a straight A student.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that was a tough part. And then again, nobody looks like you. Nobody. You go from, A-Leaf Elsick, you had blacks, Hispanics, a couple of Dominicans, and a couple Asians. That was it. I still remember my first white teacher. Her name was Miss Ashley. She was my 10th grade English teacher. I remember her. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you ever seen this movie called Dangerous Minds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a Dangerous Minds situation. So it's like, it bless her heart. She was amazing. But getting to UT and it's the reverse, right? Where now it's like South Park. My name's Token. And I'm like sitting in this room like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and trying to get used to it. It's a cultural shock. It's a chin check for you to figure out how confident you actually are and who you are. Are you yourself no matter the room you're in? And I couldn't answer yes to that at that age, which, I mean, understandably so. Looking back, most 18-year-olds are going to shapeshift depending on where they're at. But yeah, that was tough for me. Football all of a sudden wasn't just as easy. It was tough. You get to this place where my first practice, I look and it's like Brian Arapahoe's right there. Roy Miller is right there. Lamar Houston
and
is
you were
right
coming
there.
into
Sergio Kendall is right there. All of these guys went first, second round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you were coming into, a powerhouse.
Yeah, you came into the powerhouse. Yeah. They've lost.
They just won the national championship.
They just won a lot of these seniors were freshmen on that 05 team. So they've been to the top.
Yeah.
Like 10 of our 11 starters got drafted. The one person that didn't, even in the second rotation, I think it was like 5 of that group. So 5 of those 11 got drafted. You know what I mean? The one person that didn't get drafted that was starting in that group is the current defensive back coach at Texas now, Blake Gideon.
Yeah.
And he was nice. You know what I mean?
He went to my high school.
You step into this, football's different. I didn't know how to watch film. I never watched film before. I showed up and just give me the ball. It's time to put on a show. Right?
So talent wasn't enough.
Talent wasn't enough. But like even understanding, and I love Coach Brown. He genuinely helped develop me into a man. But like football is different at Texas, right? Like I make a big play. You know, you jump over somebody, you spin, you get a first down, you jump up and I'm being me. And it's like, he blowing the whistle. He's like, get back to the huddle. We're trying to run hurry up offense. What are you doing? You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, my bad. It ain't time to celebrate. Like, you know, so it's like just, it was all tough on me. The curriculum is tougher. The culture is different. Struggling for the first time with football because I don't understand how to watch film. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm falling asleep, you know, in this film room. They make those film rooms cold on purpose. Like I'm in here freezing, falling asleep. Don't know what we're looking at this screen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a growing up period. It's a growing up period. And, growth is not always comfortable. Right. And that was just a very uncomfortable time. But the best thing that could have ever happened was me sticking through it. Right. Cause for the first time, grades were falling. I mean, grades, that class I told y'all about, I made a flat 0. I just stopped showing up. Like, I'm not coming back here. This is a foreign language. I have no clue what anybody is saying here. Feeling embarrassed, not wanting to ask for help. And you got all the resources at your disposal. Like there's an academic counselor, an assistant academic counselor, an assistant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for a student athlete to be failing at a major university. It makes no sense at all. And here I was with a 0, right? Like you gotta that's pretty impressive. How'd you actually get an actual 0? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, going through that piece was the best thing. Because I got a chance to see for the first time what I looked like against adversity that I wasn't familiar with. It's different when you grow up in a certain space where all the adversity looks the same.
Yeah.
Like everything looks the same. So you kind of, you get used to it. I know what the adversity looks like here. It looks like, all right, I know it's this time of night, so I know not to walk down this street because I'm going to run into these guys. Or, you know, like just even it's a different education is what I tell people. Like street smart and book smart are real things. And so like the education of street smart, IQ was high. And even in book smart, until I got to UT, I thought it was real high, right? But it's like getting to this unfamiliar space and facing struggles and hurdles that are very unfamiliar to me. as well as not feeling like I was in a space that had the support system that I grew up with. And the reason, I mean, I understand, and this is not just the hood, this is anywhere. I understand why people never leave their hometowns. It's so comfortable there. Even the hard shit that's going on is still in a comfortable, you're playing on home turf.
Yeah.
It's even the toughest thing you could think about. I know I can go talk to this person, or I know I can go do this, or I know I can, but being in a foreign place, what Austin had felt like, it's like, I'm just sitting in a dorm looking at the ceiling, trying to figure it out, putting on a front. Got the homies hitting me up on MySpace Messenger, hitting me up on Facebook DM, like, what's it like out there? And I'm like, oh man, it's It's none of that. I hate it. I want to leave now. I want to go back to U of H. Yeah, like that's what I was, contemplating and thinking. But my mother, she encouraged me to find a way. Yeah. She never let me and my brothers quit anything. Dude, I don't know where I got this bright idea to take like karate when I was like 10, but I hated it after the first day there. And she was like, well, you signed up for it. So in 4 months, if you decide you don't want to do it no more, when they do the re-signs, you don't have to sign up again, but you finishing this. Yeah. I'm like, it's the first day. She said, well, you signed up. I don't know what to tell you. I'll see you in 4 months. And I was at karate for 4 months, like hating it. And it's not one of them stories where it's like, oh, I began to love it and eventually became a karate kid. No, I hated it the entire time. Like, but the mentality of if you start something, you finish it just because that's who you are. Yeah. Like that was like nurtured my whole life. And then it was put to the test of imagine being able to quit something, having the support to quit and the ability to quit. Like I could have quit Texas and transferred somewhere else. And that other place wanted me to come there. So, but I remember talking to her on the phone and she was like, well, what's wrong? And I started telling her what's going on. I'm crying. I'm telling her what's going on and everything. And she like, yeah, it just sounds like you, got some stuff to figure out to me. I said, wow. She said, well, you know the answer. You're grown now, so these decisions are made by you, but I know you're not going to let yourself quit. You know what I mean? So it's funny. Fast forward 3 years from there, and I led all running backs in the Big 12 in receptions that year. I was a complimentary back to Malcolm Brown, who went on to play 7 years in the league, and he was younger than me, and that was a humbling experience. Yeah. The kid was, if objectively speaking, his game was better than mine. That's just the truth. You better get comfortable with the truth. Yeah. But you find out other ways to help and lead your team. I ended up being a team captain. Ended up being on the Big 12 all academic team. I ended up getting super comfortable regardless of how people look because I'm genuinely secure with myself. So like there was a growth that happened during my time at Texas that I genuinely believe played as a foundational piece for everything else that came after. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so for that piece, I'm forever grateful. And we had some runs, man, from 2008 to 2010. We lost one game. We went 25-1. We lost one game on a fluke Michael Crabtree catch. Mm-hmm. And outside of that, everybody else was getting smoked. And so, and the next time we lost was in the national championship. Yeah. Alabama. Yeah. Which was fluke too. But whatever. But and then we had some downtimes. I mean, we went 5-7 one year. It's tough to go from being in the national championship game to going to 5-7. Mm-hmm. And facing that adversity and then becoming a senior and being a team captain and being a leader and then trying to lead that team back. And I think we finished like 9-4 that year, like really leading the team back when they always say you want to leave things better than you found it. We didn't do that. We found this at 13-0. We left it at 9-4, but we started righting the ship, and I can genuinely say we did that. And what I believe is doing that set me up down the line for what my actual purpose was, which was like to become a complement, a resource, and then a leader of men. Mm-hmm. And by the time I met you, I was like operating in that gift. Yeah. Of like I take young men, they trust me with their training protocol. I put the things around them from nutrition, medical, and everything else to make sure that they have all the boxes checked for a successful off season to help set up a successful season. On paper, that's what we do. But the challenge of helping develop the full man is what my purpose is. And I think becoming obsessed with that, and it was tough to find that because after college, I was working at CarMax, trying to figure it out. I ended up getting a job. It was one of the best things that could happen was with an orthopedic medical device sales company. I studied kinesiology and anatomy at UT. So getting that job later on, and let me tell you, CarMax, no, there's no way they should be doing that. I had on like a thick 100% cotton collar shirt in the middle of the summer with like some short khakis on. I'm like, yo, we selling more than used cars out here. This is not what this should be right now. Yeah. But a very humbling experience. And there's nothing wrong with CarMax if that's what your intention was. But my intention was never to be here. Yeah. So for me, it was a very humbling experience. And then working with the ortho company helped increase my knowledge and really put my knowledge to the test of just my understanding of anatomy and how the body works. And then getting back to my genuine interest of sport and trying to connect the dots between anatomy, science, and performance. And so like, how can we train better, objectively speaking, right? But how can we train better using this information? How do we always back up what we're doing? Which, I always say, like, you guys should always ask me why. And if I can't explain why, then you should fire me because there's no reason that we should just be in here doing stuff to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
That was mixed with a little bit of why. And it was like, can you do this too, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember so many players would be like, you're not making us do something that you can't do, right?
Yeah. And what did I do?
And you just took your shirt off and said, let's go then.
It's every single time. For that reason was why I trained as hard as I did. I was like, I'm dealing with a room full of alpha males. I'm dealing with a room full of like, what I would tell everybody, especially during those times, is that like, listen, this is the jungle. You don't walk into the jungle and ask the lions to behave. That's not how this works.
No.
You better get in and understand that like this is the jungle. It runs by different rules. And so one of the rules is exactly that. Like the respect is earned from both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you to do anything I won't do myself. And if I'm physically incapable of doing it, like you're going to see the effort of what it should look like. I'm going to give you the best. And that's all I used to tell, listen, I'm the best example giver there is. I don't got 3 sets of 12 in me, but I'm going to give you these 2 example reps and they are going to be nice. Like that was what I was trying to do. But, no, we had a run, man. We had a run. When I got there was, I think 2 professional athletes. And when I left, there was 43.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with you, carrying yourself in that manner where you're just not some fat, a coach, like trying to train people and just tell them what to do. You're actually willing to actually put the boots on and get after
every
it.
day.
And then those players talk to their friends and say, hey, it's happening down here.
That's exactly what happened. Because you got to remember, Austin doesn't have no pro sports. I mean, we got the soccer team now, but there was no basketball, no football. There was nothing that was drawing, and this was before the boom. So there was nothing that was like making people in this world just come to Austin, Texas, right? Especially when they can go train in Miami, they can go train in LA, they can go anywhere, right? So what I try to rely on is the work. The work just has to be what the work has to be. And luckily enough for us, guys were having success. And the guys were getting record-breaking contracts and everything else. And it's the biggest compliment, I still believe this in business today. The biggest compliment you can get is client acquisition or market share based on word of mouth.
Yeah.
Based on somebody saying, I experienced it, you should too. Like, to me, that's the biggest compliment you can get. So like, and then getting comfortable with, and that's where Win the Day came from. It's like getting comfortable with the minor details of every single thing you're doing and being locked into that moment, not distracted by the past or enamored by the future, but just like locked into the right now and looking at success in small steps of like, did we get better today? and doing that long enough to let compound interest take effect.
Yeah.
And that's what we seen, was that it wasn't in 2013 that it was this big thing. It wasn't in 2014. It wasn't in 2015. It wasn't in 2016. It wasn't in it was 2017, 18 is when the phone really started ringing. But a lot of times, I think, unfortunately, what I see people do is they put a timeline on success. Like, if I really, really, really want this is my calling, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and then it didn't happen 3 months later, and they're like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? If it's everything that you said it was 3 months ago, then you better double down, strap up.
Yeah.
Like, this is just what success is requiring of you. And if you're not willing to trade what success requires, then you are not deserving of success.
That's right.
Like, this is like that's how I look at it. I don't believe that there's an infinite level of success out there. I look at it like there is just enough. Mm-hmm. And those that are actually going to achieve it, and whatever, they had their own definitions of success, but those that achieve what is mine? Did you accomplish what you set out to accomplish? Very simple. Not how much money you made, not how famous you are, not when you sat down and you made the plan and you wrote down what you wanted out of this. Did that get done? This is as simple as it can get, right? But a lot of times we don't see people achieve that thing because it doesn't happen in real life the way that it did on the paper.
No.
Or it gets too hard. It genuinely just gets too hard for them and they tap out. And I don't think anything's wrong with changing courses if you genuinely are changing courses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times, though, what I see is that people don't necessarily want to change course. It's just the course that they're on is demanding. It's requiring too much. And they're saying, no mas. Give me something easier. I will settle for something easier. Mm-hmm. Not, this is complete, let me move on. I am settling for something easier. Like we talked about, I just wasn't taught to quit that way. I've never been wired that way. Yeah. I'm going to exhaust every resource, every option, every idea. I'm going to exhaust everything to accomplish what we set out to accomplish. And if along that way, the goal changes, that's fine. There's no world that exists where the goal never changed, it didn't get accomplished, and I quit. Like, that's just not happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's not happening.
One thing I see in your journey of like entrepreneurship, because I met you when you were on it.
Yeah.
And then you had left on it. And you were kind of like in this in-between phase.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I looked at it. It was like you were in this in-between phase because you were trying, I was like, where do I train my guys out now, right? Because I got my guys, off-season's coming up, you know.
It's the middle of the summer, too.
It's the middle of summer, and like, I was like, man, Jeremy's really getting it right now. He's trying to find a place. So like, it was like, you train out a lifetime, and then you went to athletic outcomes. And like, we're all following you. And then next thing you know, you fully pull the trigger on what your true dream is, what you're operating in right now. And what I saw was you were talking about changing your path, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you just went to another stepping stone to where you need to go. Because that path, eventually, it's going to come to an end where it's like, okay, I need to just take another step to the next stepping stone.
Yeah. That was tough. That was scary.
Yeah.
Because Honor provided me everything I needed.
Yeah. No, it was very well rounded. Because I remember it was the best like training experience I've ever had. Because, yeah, I mean, I knew what the workouts were. The nutrition was on point.
Yeah.
We were having like, it was like we were in like an off season, like we were having like team meeting about hydration, and it's just like I felt like everything was structured, and then it blew up. It just blew up.
Yeah. That was, we couldn't agree on the business on the back end.
Yeah,
truth, and not being able to agree on the business nor the direction led to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a very valuable lesson about ownership. Not influence, but true ownership. What does the paper say?
Yeah.
And fortunately, that played out. And the toughest part for me was that I knew you guys were going to be impacted. I was fine. I was like, I'll figure it out. In a perfect world, that happens in September. And now I have
the season to figure it out.
Yeah, I got a whole season to figure it out. It doesn't happen in May while everybody's at OTAs, and in 11 days they're back here.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of like what I wanted to go into is like you talked about staying on that pursuit, and you didn't, nobody saw what you were doing in 2013, 2014, 2015. It wasn't until 2007, 2018 that people started taking notice, right? We as humans, like as Americans specifically, but like we want instant gratification. We want everything right now.
Popcorn culture.
Yeah. And being an influencer, an entrepreneur, and being a business owner, like that's not an easy, everybody sees the success. Everybody sees, everything going really well right now, at least from what it looks like, and you have, but nobody sees the 2013 and 14 when you're like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing?
They don't see that part. They don't see me, and it's not for them, right? It's not for them to see it. It's for me to be transparent about it when the platform is at the stage that people want to know. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just the wins are made public. In a perfect world, you can take the losses in private. Yeah. That wasn't always my case. That was a big loss that was taken on a public stage for me. Mm-hmm. And when I should probably say it's a big lesson that was taken on a public stage for me. But I just ask that when we do get to the space where people give a damn and they want to know, just be honest about it.
Yeah.
Tell them, I was working at CarMax, and this is what I was trying to do as I was trying to do this piece, right? And in 13 and 14, it was tough, bro. I mean, I know we jumping around a little bit, but I'm training, and I don't make enough from training only to be training. So I have a day job.
Right.
And I'm training, and I can only train in the evenings when I get out for work. And I know that that's why you just be nice to people. I was real tight with the janitor at Texas. So he would just leave the back door open for me so I could have somewhere to work. Mm-hmm. So I'm either at the public park getting kicked out by the park manager, or I'm doing a weight room session at Texas, which was a dope experience for people that didn't go there. So that kind of worked out for me. But for me at that time, there were tough decisions being made. Do I buy groceries or do I put gas in my car? Because we can't do both. And then I do say this, I'm like, creativity, lack thereof is the birthplace of creativity. Mm. Like whenever you don't have an easy solve for something because you're lacking for me, it was resources and funds, you start to get creative. Like, all right, I don't have a choice. I still have to accomplish X, but X requires Y and I don't have Y. All right, do I sit and pout? Or do I see what I do have around here? And that was, and that was born in projects, because it's one thing I always say is like one of the best parts about coming from a poverty stricken area is that money can't cover problems because there's no money. So the problems exist until they're solved, which makes you get in the habit of problem solving, which in all honesty, a lot of adults can use that skill set. Like, because we don't know how to solve problems.
Right.
We panic, we cry, we bitch, we moan, we complain, and then we quit. We don't know how to problem solve. So having years of practice, get into this dilemma of I don't have funds, gas, or food, found the loophole. It's called overdraft. And I would just overdraft the account. Go get the food first. Leave enough to get the tank started. When the tank starts, it won't cut off. You'll just overdraft. Here we go. Not the best. You get a $35 charge for overdrafting, but you got a full fridge and you got a full tank. I can get back to work.
Yeah.
But like, you got to have this level of belief in yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing this until this pops. Not if this doesn't work in the next 60 days, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Who are you to say it's only good taking 60 days?
Right.
This doesn't work in the next year. Who are you to say it only takes a year? Are you dedicated or not? Mm-hmm. Yes or no?
Yeah, failure wasn't an option.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, it was not, right?
When you're talking about creativity, I remember maybe seeing a little, now that you're talking about that and knowing more of your backstory, I've seen more of that A-Leaf Jeremy whenever he's got us on the side of ACC Hill, running hills. And it's like, I'm like, where did Jeremy have us now? And he's over here driving around looking for the steepest hill around Austin.
I'm driving around Austin because why wouldn't I be?
But what you're doing is you're okay, we got to do the hills. So you're problem solving, you're trying to find a place. And then on top of that, you're trying to be creative.
Yeah.
And then he would like have us at this like sand volleyball court in the Domain.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, where are we at right now? and then I'm like, but then when you're getting into it and he's kicking our ass, you don't remember where you're at.
You don't remember where you're at.
You're just focused on grinding.
You remember on the work. That's
but
all
then
you
now
remember.
seeing where you're at now, man, like with what you're doing now with being an entrepreneur, you're just killing it, man. You're killing it. Like I just see that like your upbringing just produced a guy who just doesn't quit.
That's it.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you is like, you came to Austin and you were so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of guys, because I mean, you know, I played and I've seen guys who they've gone on to figure it out, you know, who came from poverty like you did. And they've gone on to figure it out and leverage those connections and those networks, you know, to create opportunities for themselves. And I've seen guys say, it's really uncomfortable. I'm going to go back to what's comfort. And I, you know, you explained it in a way that like, I didn't think about that, but I there's often times where like, you know, I'll talk to guys I played with and it's just like, I'm just thinking like, I can't even believe you're back there. Like, and it would have been very easy for you to get done. And I mean, you know, I'm going to go back home or like, you know, a lot of guys do, but you chose to like, I'm going to stay in this place of uncomfort, you know, and figure it out.
I think that a man has to first be 100% honest with himself before anything else. When you look at yourself in the mirror, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're just thinking to yourself, it's that internal conversation, one that is 100% honest. Or are you pacifying things for yourself? And are you lying to yourself? Because if you do that, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to start lying to everybody else. Right? I refused to lie to me. I knew this is where I needed to be. I just didn't want to be here. So now, accepting that as truth, there's a very simple decision to be made. Am I going to do what I know is right, or am I going to do what feels good? This is simple. But operating at creating these kind of rules for yourself makes it to where you have to always be accountable to yourself. And what I tell everyone that's in my life today is that like, I don't live my life for them. I hear people say that all the time. And I'm like, I can understand the sentiment, but I disagree with the saying. I don't live my life for them. I am aligned this way. And then I am 100% accountable to myself, to the rules that I've decided will govern my life. And by me doing that all the time, they get the best version of me. They are beneficiaries of an agreement that was made well before they existed. That's how I look at it. And so being able to do that is helped me walk in this just true, authentic space. I'll say all the time, especially training, but in business as well. If you're not looking back 5 years from now and laughing at you were doing but previously, there probably wasn't a lot of growth being done there. That, or you just hit it out the park from the first jump, you know, but that wasn't my case. It's
so true.
Yeah. So like for me, I openly, especially now with somewhat of a platform, I try to openly tell people, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm trying to figure out, just so that they can understand that like, hey, I don't have everything figured out. You're just seeing progress in real time. Things are getting better because I'm always working on them. But like, I'm always tinkering. Like I'm always working on it, and that's why they're getting better.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, like that wasn't Houston. Going back to Houston, I knew for me going back to Houston was throwing in the towel. That means that I'm gonna go, you know, and this may be again. Failure or success is based on intent. My intent was never to be comfortable here in A-League. So for that to be the outcome means either A, my intent changed, or B, I quit. My intent never changed. So for me, going back representing quitting.
Yeah.
That's like, and so again, being just straight up with myself, it's like, you gonna quit today? Or we gonna win today?
Yeah.
You know, and like, and that came from when the day actually came. Um, I live, you know where Onnit is. It's on Frederick Lane, which is south of 71.
Mhm.
And I live in Pflugerville. First client is at 5 a.m. We starting at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I thought it was always nuts. You lived on the other side of town.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Because I made that drive too. 'Cause
Yeah.
when I was training with you, I
That's
was
right.
in Leander.
That's
I was
right.
like, wait, he's doing almost the dang.
So, but
dang
this is the
same
thing though.
drive.
Like, think about this. You leave Leander. You
Yeah.
make it to training on time. I think you in a 9 a.m. group.
Yeah.
So you make it to training on time. And then when training's over, you leave. I leave my house and I'm here all day. And then I'm back home. We ain't got a lot of time before it's time to be back up there. Right. So
Yeah.
I have to, just a competitor in me and the way that I operate, I have to gamify things. I have to challenge myself. I have to hold on to these little themes, I guess you would call them, of like what we're trying to get accomplished next. So for me, it was just simple, win the day. And putting it on social was crazy because it was just like a reminder for myself. You know, we all guilty of like just getting on Instagram and checking a story. And for me, when I check mine, the first thing that would pop up would be that. And then, ironically enough, you start realizing that you're not in it alone when complete strangers start would DM me on a day where I didn't post it, just because I just didn't post it, and they'd be like, "Oh man, I didn't see those red letters today." What like a person I've never met. And then the best thing from that was now they holding me accountable. Complete strangers that I've never met are now
People
starting to hold me.
you.
They're always watching. They're holding me accountable. So now it's like it became a thing that helped shape a moniker that was a part of a life that was building. No, we did all that the right way. 2019 happened the way exactly like you said. It happened in May. Lifetime. I'm telling anybody, right? I'm like, listen, I'll pay you whatever you tell me it costs in order to bring my guys here. And people say, I don't know, which I now owning a business, I completely understand. You bring a hurricane in and disrupt the business is just probably not the best idea, right? Athletic outcomes. Man, I got so much respect for them.
Pat.
Pat and Britt.
Yeah.
And I pitched it to them and they were like, okay, I can see it. And I say, you tell me whatever it costs and I will pay that in full right now. And they gave me a number. I didn't negotiate. I didn't have, gave them their funds. Right. And then I remember going home and praying and just saying that, I ain't shared this yet, but Lord, allow this to work. I don't care if I make a single dollar. I just need this to work. I need these guys to not lose faith in me.
Yeah.
Right. And 2019 probably had the most fun, real, raw off season that I was ever a part of.
No, that was the most fun.
That was the most fun. Like, bro, it's funny how like nothing mattered. I drove to like 8 different academies, picked up every sandbag they had, went over there to that domain that you're talking about personally for like hours, filled up the sandbags to the exact amount, weighed them, made sure every single bag was the exact same way it needed to be, picked up the weight. I brought everything, stored it at my house and loaded up a car and brought it to work every day and then put it back in the car and did it happily. It was the craziest part.
That could have been like a documentary. Like that whole off-season.
That off-season, yeah.
Because the amount of creativity that you did and like the resiliency, man, that like you were just gonna make it happen.
What's
so crazy? Yeah, what's so crazy is like you didn't lose anybody. Like you're not even in a world-class facility, and we're out here like in the middle of a freaking field, in the middle of the domain, which is like, and you didn't lose any of the most elite NFL football players. And they're over here playing, it looked like they're playing pickup football on the freaking streets.
Yeah. And it's like, and the craziest part is that like all of those things that made it comfortable for me to do my job they didn't exist. Right. I hired individual contractors to provide resources so that the guys didn't lose those things, but it wasn't in this nice multi-million-dollar facility anymore.
Right.
So like all of a sudden we just got back to the dog work.
Using like Del Valley's indoor
facility.
I'm
I'm paying everything. I'm paying boom, 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 and it's so funny, man, because I always challenge people and say, like, it's like, if you want to know what you love, ask yourself, would you do it for free? And if the answer is no, then you probably don't love it the way you think. Just a decent place to start.
Yeah.
And essentially, we have 40 plus guys broken into groups of 8. And so this goes on throughout the day. I got a 7:30, a 9, a 10:30, a 12, and then the offensive defensive off on at 1:30. All right. I essentially work for free that whole summer, just because every single dollar I got, I put it back into the business, or I paid a contractor to do something to make this program better. Right. Yeah. And it was one of the best thing that happened was Quandre Diggs text me. I'll never forget this. And Quandre is a man that is very critical, with very few compliments in between being critical, and very vocal and pretty consistent. Yeah. And I will never forget, Quandre Diggs text me and just said, and this was like going into September, right? Everybody had been gone for weeks. And he was just like, hey, dog, I feel great out here right now. This offseason was dope. And I took it as like Quandre speaks for the group. Like, you know what I mean? I was just like, we did it.
Yeah.
And this is just how, what we were talking about earlier. I believe that steps are ordered. I went to a friend's wedding in Mexico. I went to a friend's wedding in Mexico. It was a safe spot. It was a resort, a real safe resort. And on the way back, I got stopped by a guy named Mitch Johnson, who was the CEO of Keller Capital, which is the financial arm of Keller Williams. And he's like, I've been trying to get in touch with you. I would love to sit down. I heard you no longer on it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I ran into somebody else, and he's, hey, Jay, I've been trying to get in touch with you, but you don't check your DMs. I was like, I don't got a DM from you. And he said, check the requested box. I didn't know there was a requested box. Mm-hmm. So I clicked the requested box. And it's like 150 just DMs in there, right? And you're going through them. And about 20 of them were different people that were like, I hear you no longer here. If you do your own thing, I would really want to talk to you. And these were like some of them became future investors for me. All right. And, you just never know who's watching. And all I can tell people is like, fall in love with the work. In 2019, for me, was a reminder of that. Fall in love with the work. Fall in love with like we talked about, fall in love with the effort that you put into something, not for what you get out of it, but simply because this is the thing you're working on. Just as simple as that. And that's what 2019 was. That's what it really was. And I ended up meeting my co-founder here at Collective. He was one of those people. We ended up chatting, and he was he was a GM, and he was a part of the acquisition team for a lifetime. They would go buy what they call legacy clubs. And so they would purchase a facility that was already up and running and then rebrand it as a Lifetime. And he and we connected, and we worked together, and I learned my lesson. And on the business side, I flew out to Minnesota, met with Fonda Spoils, who's pretty high up with Lifetime. And we worked out a pretty good deal. And I started creating a programming around a group fitness class that was athlete inspired. And we called it All Grind. And then I was paid to basically scale this program. And the biggest blessing in disguise happened, which was COVID. 2020 hit. Mm-hmm. This thing gets shut down, but they had already paid me. And they furloughed it. When they furlough it, there's no like, hey, give me that back or anything. It's like we're stopping everything here kind of thing, right? So it just voids everything from that point. But what happened was I ordered steps. I got everything I was supposed to get out of my short time there, which was a real relationship and a connection with Devin Lowe, as well as some capital, right? And then we started working on what eventually became Collective about a year later. We started working on that. And life just, I mean, yeah, I think this is 2021. I've been at this since 2012, 13.
Right.
You just never know when the thing happens. And for me, it was that we introduced this concept. We really ran with it because I've been in the industry for a long time and I've been teaching for a long time. I have a network of like really, really good quality coaches that are like some of the best both locally and in different parts of the country. Our very first hire was a coach that I knew out of Brooklyn, New York, Eric Rakowski. And he moved down to Austin. He was the very first hire that we had. And then I started like hand selecting these coaches to put together this team. And we ran with it, man. We ran with it. And you fast forward. I mean, that was what? August of 21. We officially opened. We soft opened August of 21. We officially opened March 3rd of 22. And by November of 22, we had purchased a medical practice. We had physicians, chiropractors, physical therapists. We were now offering what we call collective labs, which was blood work. And we partnered with Alive and Well. We were doing IVs. We had a full medical side of the house, all in-house. Even it was like bigger and better than what was before, right?
Yeah.
And we had the training, we had the recovery methods, we had everything. And the lesson that was learned is I had ownership.
Yeah.
As far as direction of this thing.
You're the head of the house now.
I'm now the head of the house. And we're looking at scale. I mean, we had to press pause on expansion efforts and tighten up the business because one of the most terrible things you could do is grow a big national brand that is not a sustainable business. But now we did everything we're supposed to do. We got our finance team in check in order and they're killing it. We got an HR team in order. They are killing it. Like this business is now ready to go, and doing that the right way earned additional opportunity. Kane Footwear, got introduced to that. The original founder, John Gagliardi, call him JG Gags, and really been like, I fell in love with that piece of it, of like finding these small startups that I believed in and then helping position them in a market that I've been a part of for a long time to then grow and scale and then like almost test the product in a community that we built. It's like, it became fun and challenging for me.
Yeah.
And it was then in 2023 where I fully stepped away from the performance training. I turned it over to our coaches that I had brought on, and it was a gradual thing. It happened throughout 22 to 23, and then our athletes finally they rated till they earn that trust. When our coaches earn that trust, then I openly told them like, I'm gonna be moving on to this piece, right? Business development and everything else. So I did change courses, but after it was complete,
right?
And that's what if I had a message for anybody, it's that. It's like, I'm not asking you to like pound the pavement every day for the rest of your life doing this one thing. I'm saying, make sure it's complete first.
Yeah.
And I genuinely felt that way. I feel like that chapter was amazing. And by doing that chapter the right way, it has set up so many other opportunities, but it's done. And I'm happy with it. You know what I mean? It's like people ask me all the time, like, oh, do you miss it? I'm like, if I miss anything, it's the moments that suck. You know what I mean? Like it's the moments where I had to do the right thing. It's the moments where we're on rep 10 of hill sprints. I'm the one that wrote the programming. I know we have 12 today. Y'all don't know we have 12 today. I can easily say, bring it up. Good work today. But instead, like those moments where I have to decide, all right, line it back down. Like those, like if I miss anything, it's that. You know what I mean? Because the truth is, there's nothing that I do that gives me that feeling anymore. But there are other feelings that I get that are just as exciting and new, and they come with their own chin check moments themselves, right? But yeah, that's it.
There's this quote that I started list kind of implementing into everyday life when I start training for these ultras. And I talked to you off camera about, the pain that type of training and that type of industry, that type of sport brings. And a lot of times people that are just different, the people that work out at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., because they have to get it in, they have to check that box off. They're just built different. They're built absolutely different. And there's this quote that says, if you want to run, go run a mile. If you want to change your life, run a marathon. But if you want to talk to God, run an ultra marathon. Run an ultra marathon. And the reason, and it's funny because like when people talk to God, it's because most of the time, in some way, shape, or fashion, they've come to the end of themselves. Because now they're talking to somebody outside of themselves. And it seems like whenever you're in that tough spot, you lay everything down that's not of you to seek out something that's going to build you up. You're looking outward. And so that's why a lot of people love the pain, is people don't realize that you have to step into something where you knew you found yourself. Because that's your well of life. I said in another podcast is that I have to get in that pain cave, because for me and my faith, Jesus Christ, is that's where I meet him. And I was like, okay, show me something else, Lord. Let me take it back to my family. Let me take it back to my business. Let me take it back to my friendships, my being a brother, being a friend and neighbor. I got to find those answers in that pain. And then I come back to reality where I'm comfortable, and I get to share what I learned. And so that's kind of where I get my relationship with the pain. And when you're explaining your story, your greatest pain turned into what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now the dope part is that, like, in living this chapter out loud, I'm having the opportunity to show these athletes and just anybody that, like, this is what it can look like after. Like, the world's not over when you hang the cleats up. Like, there are so many other opportunities and other things to be excited. And it's cool to still be around the guys in the off season. I'll jump in some workouts with them, but then have these other conversations and talk to them about stuff they're genuinely interested in, that they've been peeking at and want to know how to get involved with. And then having some experience in the tools and the networks and resources to actually help guide them and lead them to that way. And then specifically to what you were just saying, what came to mind is, like, everybody always say they want to be a trailblazer. They want to be a trailblazer. They want to do stuff. I was like, you know what that means? That means that, like, there's no fire to light the way, and you go into the woods anyway. Everybody else stands back where it's comfortable, safe, and you come back eventually scarred up, a couple arrows in your back, and the actual fire that you did find. And you're like, all right, guys, don't go that way. We got to go. That's what a trailblazer is. It's saying, like, I'll go first. Whatever that means. Sometimes it's advantageous. Sometimes it's heartbreaking. I'll go first. And, like, having the courage to, like, exist in that space, take the big swings. Like, having I think it's very wise to have, like, people of wise counsel around you to help kind of navigate those waters. But, like, realizing that at the end of the day, the ultimate decision is on you. And like, being willing to take that shot. Like, being willing to be MJ, give me the ball. We down 2 with 1 second, give me the ball. Like, not everybody wants that kind of pressure.
Right.
Not everybody wants that. But, like, I think that's where we shine. That's where we do the best work.
Yeah.
That's where we do the best work. So
gotta take that.
Trying to continue to live this thing. Oh, man.
Well, what are you doing now? Like, tell the world what you're doing now. What is Jeremy Hill doing in this season of life?
Oh, man.
So you're a man with many hats.
Yeah, many hats. Now, obviously the facilities, right? Continuing to expand collective.
Yeah.
And then we opened a wine bar this year called The Reserve.
Yeah.
Getting into a little bit of the hospitality space. Got involved with a group. We did a restaurant, the guest house. That's doing well. Having a good time with that. Still in the wellness space. Doing in the connected fitness space. We got a company out in Frisco called, Plano, called Oxfit. That's killing it. Absolutely love that. And that founder, his name's Mohammed Rav Shanablim. He has taught me so much. Just like, rap, you're amazing. Kane is still trying to take over the world with those, right?
Yeah. They've grown so much, man. Like, you got so many influencers now.
Yeah.
And you're in department stores now.
Department store. Yeah. It's cool too because like my daughter is who we did like one of the big shoots with. And so like people are just like send me a photo of like, I'm in Dick's and look, it's Savannah. And like, you know what I mean?
I saw him in Dick's the other day.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool. Like that's always fun for me. And I always show her, she's 4. So she always looking it's funny. It's the same photo on all of, and she looks every time. She's like, that's me. I'm like, baby, it's the same picture I showed you last week. But that's always fun. And invested in, and we helped start up a high-end fashion boutique called As You Are, which has been fun. Really just at this point, the same way that I spent a lot of the performance part of my life helping develop the talents of young men, I'm using this season to help develop ideas. Like, what are these ideas that we have that are challenging and creative and have a reason to win and are on brand for really choosing my heart thing, right? Which is a privilege that I acknowledge, but like choosing the thing that I want to be working on, choosing the thing that that's going to keep me up at night, like choosing that thing and then seeing it till its completion.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, man, I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
Yeah, it's really refreshing because I got to know you even more now because I've known you as Jeremy, the guy who took a chance on me, the guy who loves people, and the guy who's a great sports performance coach. And also, I recently, looking into your successful businessman, multiple entrepreneurs. So, man, we always finish off with that one message you can tell the world, that thing that means the most to you, that you cherish in your heart, and that you would love to share to that person on the other side of that camera.
Okay, I think I got it.
You can take your time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so much, right? I can talk all day. If I had one thing to share, don't stop searching until you figure out what you want your contribution to this world to be. And when you figure it out, never stop working on it, ever. Don't look to retire. Contribute to this world until you're no longer here. It'll be the most fulfilling thing you can do.
Speaking of retiring, I know that you're talking about that mom that told you not to give up and not come back home. I remember when we were training, you had an opportunity to retire her.
Yeah, man. So she retired, and now she lives I think she lives like 1.5 mile away from me. Yeah,
that's beautiful. I love.
So retired her in 2019. She moved down to Austin with us. So she lived with me with the mindset that we would build her house in 2020. COVID hit. She ends up living with me for 2 more years. So that was fun. But, built her house in 2022. And, oh my gosh, she is funny, man. She now had one of my coaches as her trainer. So she's always like, my trainer said, yeah. So she's at the gym 2-3 days a week. Then she goes to the YMCA and does a water aerobics. And then I look on my MX statement and I see that she's at Home Goods, Michael's, and Ross, like
got a little
every day of the week. So I don't know why she's in these 3 stores all the time, but
she took care of you. Now it's time to take care of her.
She's genuinely, and I keep telling her, I'm like, I want this season of your life to be the one that you be selfish in. Think about yourself. What do you want? What don't you want? And just say yes or no based on that. Yeah. And she is taking that baton and ran with it. So yeah, she's enjoying life.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for being here, Jeremy.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you like this episode of the Get Back podcast, like, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Go follow. What is it? J Hills?
Yeah, J Hills 5 on all platforms. I try not to annoy you too much. Just come on over and come win the day.